listening to The Football Coaching Life, a podcast brought to you by Football Coaches Australia and Making Media, the podcast professionals. These are the stories of Australia's men and women's coaches, the people that we give the responsibility to develop our players and teams. We've had some wonderful people on the show thus far, and today is no different to that. Welcome, Michael Vaccanist, assistant coach of the Greek national team. Mickey, great to have you.
Thanks, Gary. Thank you very much for having me too. I'm looking forward to the chat.
Yeah, let's get you introduced properly first, and we'll jump in. Michael obviously had a stellar playing career. Started with a very famous club down here in Melbourne called South Melbourne Hellas. 50 games there before heading off to Greece, and had 100 games with Larissa. A 300-game professional career that saw him go back initially to Adelaide City, and then Adelaide United with a formation of the A-League. A wonderful career there, and he flowed from that career in Adelaide United into his coaching career through the U team as an assistant, and then head coach, and then an assistant with a senior team and an acting head coach role there, and before moving across to Melbourne City and then going with JVS across to PV Pex Wall, and now he's in Athens, Greece. So after all that, welcome, Michael Valkanis. It's great to have you on the show.
Thanks, Gary. No, great to be on here, mate. And like I said, I'm looking forward to the chat. It's been an adventurous journey so far, and I'm looking forward to the rest of it.
Yeah. Mate, I didn't realise you'd been at Adelaide City for 13 years. Oh, sorry, Adelaide United for 13 years in doing the research for this. Obviously, you went back to Adelaide. 13 years is a long time for a Melbourne boy. You obviously had a career in Europe. You got married. You've got 4 boys. You were over the moon. I heard you talking when you moved from Adelaide to Melbourne and got to be around family again. And then a year later, you're on the road to Holland and now Greece. I guess that's the life of a professional football coach, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We often talk about it with my wife Anita, where there's no real home. It's crazy. Like we can't actually. We bought a house while we were in Melbourne. We lived in it for about 6 months, and we took off, and we enjoyed it for the 6 months, but we don't know if we're going to go back to it. We just don't know where any coaching journey can take you. So that's always a little bit of a downside, but there's always an upside to all this, that you're going to different parts of the world, you're meeting so many people, you're seeing so many different cultures and learning so much, and even for the kids it's been a great adventure. So we're continuing, and if you're going to be a coach and you want to be a career coach and travel the world and be at the mecca of football, I think Europe, it's going to be like this.
Yeah, no doubt. Obviously, you're working with John Vance Ship at Melbourne City, and I'm guessing you developed a great relationship there because he invited you to Holland with him, and you went to Holland, and then he invited you to join him with the Greek national team. So that must be a wonderful working relationship you've got with John.
Yeah, Melbourne City, when I went, we clicked with our philosophy and the type of football that I believed, and I want my team to play. So we clicked straight away, and it was very easy to work. And even as people in normal life, we clicked. He's a great person. He's just so down to earth and really easy to get along with. And we enjoy each other's company, even away from football, and trying as much as we can when we don't talk about football, because we talk about it so much. It doesn't matter whether we go for dinner with our wives. A conversation always comes up, about football and our team and what we have to try and achieve and what we're planning for. But yeah, we clicked. And it's been a really great working relationship since then. And he also is a real good manager in terms of allowing me to be who I want to be as a coach as well, and gives me a lot of responsibility and a lot of room to work, and hence why I've continued to work with him, because I'd love to be a head coach at some stage again. I really, when you taste being a head coach, you love it, and you want to do it. But working with JVS also gives you an opportunity to be that, and I enjoy working.
Yeah, that's great. Mick, let's just roll back. This is not about your playing career, but you obviously had a professional career in Europe, and then came back to Australia. Where were you on your playing journey where you came across the coach that had the most influence on you, that sort of you went, well, this is something I might like to do?
Yeah, look, I think it was while I was playing in Greece, I realised I was around about 25, 26, where I realised it was so tactical compared to playing in the old NSL, where everything seemed a little bit more simple as a player, and what we were told to do on a given Sunday, and the information we were given on that given Sunday to play a game. And then, I journeyed across to Greece, and there was so much information, and the tactical side was a lot. And then I started to realise, the way the game is, there's so much to it than just, putting on your boots and playing. I think there was a lot of different coaches that started to influence me, but one in particular, and even he wasn't directly my coach at the time, but I was a youth player at South Melbourne, and I loved the way he spoke. I loved how he communicated, even to me as a young player that would go and train with my heroes at the time when I was a youth player, and I'd go every Thursday to play a game in the 11v11, the internal game, was Ferenc Puskás as well. I used his line once, even with my youth team when they went down 2-0 at half time. I remembered him saying it to Mehmet Durakovic, and I used it, and it was, they score 1, we score 2. They score 2, we score 3. They score 3, we score 4. That's football. And, the boys went on to win that game 4-2, and I'll always remember that. And that's what the game is about, and that's how I love seeing the game. It's an attacking game. It's a game about scoring goals. It's about, being creative and the players enjoying themselves. And I always like to say to our players as well, wherever I coach, or when I was with the youth or seniors, is players want to be like how they were when they were kids, only that they've got a lot more rules when they're playing, and there's a lot more structure, but to enjoy themselves and play free. Because when we played as kids in the park or at school, it was all about dribbling and scoring goals and celebrating and having fun. And the game should be that, even at the highest level, of course, with the coach's point of view. There's a little bit more structure to it, and when you lose the ball. But Ferenc Puskás, I think was a massive influence to a lot of people at South Melbourne at the time. He was a legend. And then to go on and see some of the coaches I had along my journey as a player in Greece, there was the tactics were just too far gone. It was just too much involved in it, and that sort of made me see the game a little bit differently. And I came back to Adelaide and played, and you started I had matured a lot more as a player, and I started to see the game a little bit differently. And we had a good experienced side under John Cosmino at Adelaide, and we were underdogs of the A-League, and I think we did surprisingly to everyone really well in the first couple of years, and we were very competitive. And I think John integrated a lot of the experienced boys in, what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. And that, again, made us have a little bit more input in the game and think about the game a bit more than just turning up and playing for the red shirt that we loved. And then I think, honestly, Gary, I think Pep Guardiola's played he's been so much impact on every coach all over the world in seeing the game differently and coaching a little bit differently. And we were lucky enough to be playing still at the time that Barcelona was absolutely amazing, playing an amazing style of football. And, when you go back and you're influenced by people like Ferenc, you're playing at South Melbourne as a young player where it was very attacking football, and the Greeks demanded that you win every week playing, a particular way. And then, playing a style even in Adelaide where we wanted to play football, and all this transforms the way you see the game and how you want it to be played. Yeah.
And how about the formal side of your coach education, Michael? When did that begin for you?
Yeah, always something happens where you think it's terrible, but something good always happens out of it. And it was when I ruptured my ACL playing for Adelaide United. Yeah. And I think it was 2007. And I was getting older, getting along at the club, and I think it was about 34. And I was never going to want to go away like that and finish up with an ACL injury and not play again for the club that I captained. And I actually, I'd been there for quite some time, and I fell in love with Adelaide. And during that time, I had to take time off to get back to fitness, and that takes quite a lot of time. But the club also knew that I wanted to be a coach in the future. So they told me, look, we're going to give you another year's contract. And after that, let's see where you're going to be at as a player. You're going to be 35, but also we know that you want to be in the coaching game and you aspire to be a coach. So we're also thinking of allowing you to work with our youth, setting up an academy here and getting some coaching experience and start you along that journey. So maybe it's time that you also do your coaching badges. So I started with the B license back then, and then gone on to the A license and so on. And I was lucky enough, to tell you the truth, there's always a Dutchman that's come in my path. And maybe that's why I clicked so much with John. It was the technical director, Harmberg, at the time, was very influential in the way I went about things. And luckily enough, he also gave me a coach's scholarship, never faced coach's scholarship. And he sent me abroad, and he sent me to Holland.
Fantastic.
To FC 20 at the time, and to Ajax, and I went to Spain as well, because I had to see my favourite team, Barcelona, and the way they did things. And at the time in Barcelona, I was lucky enough to Pochettino was working in Espanyol, so I spent time watching him as well. And it was just interesting, combining the badges, but also travelling and seeing some of the best work and how they worked. It's really important. You learn so much combining doing the theoretical and the practical, and learning to actually coach. And that was fantastic. I enjoyed doing the badges, and we were also in a real good group of guys, and we enjoyed each other's company. And it was funny because a lot of us were competitors on the pitch, but we were also competitors as coaches, learning to be coaches. I had Kevin Muscat, Stevie Corica, Popovic, so you can imagine. So it was an interesting time. It was a good learning time. And I just think traveling and seeing some of the best, work and how they do things and speaking to them helped a lot as well. And then I came back and I continued on, obviously doing my badges, working with the youth, which I think is a massive learning, working with some of the elite youth. And I think it's important. You can try so many things out when it comes to philosophy. And I was on my way. I was very clear with the way I wanted to do things. I had a lot of Dutch influence. I had a lot of influence on my football career and the way I wanted to play. And I was trying to put things together. And honestly, Gary, you watch teams that played the way you want your team to play. And if that was Barcelona, for example, back then, you'd use your video recorder, rewind, pause, go back, try to work out what they were doing, and trying to work out their principles and try to put, exercises together that you could bring to life in your team. But then I was lucky enough that after my interim position as head coach at Adelaide, that Joseph Gumbel came, Guillermo Moore came, Paul Marti as well, which is a fantastic physical coach. And he was, again, along your journey, there's always people that come along your path that are meant to be there, and they help you. And that was tremendous. For me, that was 4 years of really developing as a coach. And what Joseph helped me do was develop my own philosophy, and really, I wanted the Barcelona way. I wanted to learn that. And, with their experience in the Barcelona Football Club, they were able to guide me and teach me and give me what I have now.
Mick, let's ask you a question there. I want to talk about the development of your coaching through the youth team, but I can't help, based on this. We've had a couple of conversations here. Obviously, developing your coaching philosophy is an important thing. You obviously love beautiful attacking football. How do you think, where do you sit on the fact, in the reality of where you currently are with the Greek national team? As coaches, we want to play beautiful football. We want to play beautiful attacking football. And this is in our minds. We've got this image of how you do that. The reality is we've got this group of players. If you're at a club, this is the group of players that you inherit. You can transfer in, you can transfer out. And they can do these things, but maybe not these things. So where do you sit on this spectrum of aspiration versus capability?
Yeah, look, that's a really good question, and I've been able to work at clubs where you can really focus on that philosophy and make sure that that's it. That's all we're doing. That's the way we're playing, and that was the way at Pecaswalla. That was the way at Melbourne City, how we did it. And in regards to the Greek national team, we put in place the philosophy, and obviously with national teams, you have to really maximise the time that you have to work with them. There's not that much time. We believe that there was the players here can play that certain way. There's no doubt about it. They are technically good enough to play. They are tactically aware. What we did see, though, is that for years and years, they've been entrenched with a defensive belief and playing. And they, like Gary, when it comes to training, you don't have to spend too much time on defensive organisation or how you're going to press. And even if you change your system to suit how you want to press or to suit, you're playing Spain, who's a giant of football, they click on to that sort of stuff straight away. It's like it's ingrained, it's in the DNA. And what we didn't want to do is lose that either, because that's a special part of the way the Greeks play here. So we wanted them to keep that. We wanted them to keep that, belief that defensively they are capable of controlling the game as well. But also give them the belief that as footballers, as players, they can play and they can create and they can enjoy playing attacking football and win games playing that way. And, there's going to be games where you play against Spain and you're not going to be dominant. Spain are another level, and we're still working on, hopefully one day we can reach that sort of level. But to also do that, it's got to be a whole cultural shift and an idea that it can be played that way, even at league level, which, you watch the Super League in Greece and it's not all teams play that way. So that's even a difficulty we encounter with our players as well, because a lot of them are playing a certain way at their clubs and then they're coming and we're asking for something else. So, look, you've got to find a balance, in particular when you play these big nations, like, playing Spain away in Spain, and they were very dominant. But, the biggest surprise to a lot of people was when we played Sweden in Athens, and we had an dominant display, and we played really well, and we won the game, and the boys played really well. Where previously in previous years they might have defended a little bit deeper and played on the counter attack and hoped to win that way. But you've seen that the way they're thinking about the game, the way we're playing it has changed quite a bit, and I just love playing attacking football. There's no doubt about it. It comes back to being kids in the park, like I said before.
Absolutely. No, I like that a lot. Let's stay on the Greek national team. You've been mainly in clubland and now I think coming up for 3 years with the national team. From a coaching perspective, you obviously can't get your hands on the players anywhere near enough, albeit in Europe with the Euros, the World Cup qualifiers, the Nations League. Now you probably get access to the players a bit more often the national coaches used to. But how do you work when you can't have access to the players every day? How do you make it work?
It's been a wonderful experience in terms of I love being on the pitch every day, and that not doing that has cost me, but it's taught me a lot more, and it's given me a lot of tools that I can take with me now going into clubland in the future. And we watch a lot of games, a lot of football. You have to analyse a lot of football, and we've got a list of maybe 40 to 50 players that we're watching on a weekly basis. So we go through that, between the three coaches, and we'll have a look and we'll have meetings discussing everyone's performance. And you're watching. Let me tell you, you're watching some games that you really don't want to watch, and you're really falling asleep. There are some games that you actually watch and you pick out some, that's interesting. Maybe I can use that in my coaching. Certain things that coaches do, because you're watching a diverse amount of games from all over the world and all over all over Europe. So with different coaches, different ideas. So you learn a lot watching that. But at the same time, I've learned to analyse games a little bit differently compared to what I would have done in Australia. Because Australia, I'll put it this way. Back then in the A-League, it becomes a little bit, without being disrespectful, it becomes a little bit monotonous. You're playing the same teams, same way. You might be playing 3 times a week, which I'll throw this in. That's why I'm a big believer that I can't wait for the B League to come in and make it a little bit more exciting and so on, and give an opportunity to other teams to come up and so on. But here, even when I came to Pek Zwolle in Holland, I realised that every week teams play differently. Every week teams set up differently. Every week teams would press differently. They build up differently. You have to be prepared for that. So there's not one recipe for your team that you can keep working on all year and it's just going to work for you. So continuously, every week, you're working on your game model, you're working on your philosophy, but you're also tinkering and putting things in place that will suit also what you have to do to adapt with the opposition. So, you know, with the national team, it might take you have to analyse in depth. And when I mean in depth, you have to be ahead of maybe what the opposition might do. So it comes back to Spain, you have to think, okay, we're going to do this, but what do you think's going to happen? If we do this, they're probably going to do that, and then we're going to have to do this. Because we won't have either a lot of time to work on it on the pitch. So we at least, and we can't you're not going to be able to give all that information to players. Players can take so much information onto the pitch, but at least you're prepared to be able to give them solutions and answers at halftime, during the game, that they can solve on the pitch. So analysis has gone to another level, and it helps you really in depth know exactly what every team's doing, what every player's going to do at an individual level, knowing the players, knowing the team, knowing what they could change, going back, seeing when they play different formations, what they do when they do change into different formations. So all that sort of stuff. And then communicating to the players. It's, it's amazing to think that in Australia, in the A-League, we had a 5-month pre-season and we'd be concerned about, can we implement this philosophy? And now in Europe, you've got 1 month at a pre-season at a club. And with a national team, if you take over like we did, we had the first camp, we had 3 days to do a bit of work. And we didn't see much of our philosophy in those 2 first games back in 2019. And that was September 2019. We started to see it more in October. November was fantastic, how that caught up with it. And the level of players being able to change and understand things that we wanted was phenomenal. But I can't comprehend how we used to struggle with 4 months in Australia, thinking we have to implement something else. And then you used to get a technical director saying, don't change too much, you shouldn't change. It's amazing now with what you've got to deal with at a national team and to try and maximise. So communicating and using a lot of presentations and visuals helps a lot. So during my time, during the last 2 weeks, we would have been working a lot on getting a lot prepared for individuals, teams within teams, whether it's defensive line, midfield, attackers, or for the team, the presentations, that they'll be able to see visually what we want. But when I mean visually, I always say that these presentations have got to be that good, that perfect, that if I speak to you in Chinese, you'll understand it visually anyway.
Yeah. So it's good. I like that.
Yeah, so and if you understand the language, you will understand it visually.
And how do you stay in touch with them? Obviously, they're all at professional clubs. They're all playing, twice a week, probably, sometimes 3 times a week. How do you go about communicate them when they're not in camp, when you can't get them out on the grass?
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult because obviously they belong to a club, and you can't turn around and say, "Oh, we think you should be doing this. We think you should be doing that." We're not responsible for them at their club, and obviously they play a certain way at their club. Their coaches ask for certain behaviours and principles to be adhered to. So we can't have that sort of influence away. But what we can have is we have contact with them, and we'll send them great goal. We let them know that we're watching, or great performance, or some players get injured. We want to find out how severe the injury is, or if they'll be back. So we keep that sort of, can't say more casual contact with them. And I think, especially here in Greece, I wouldn't want to be telling an Olympiakos player or a Panathinaikos player what to do, what they did wrong on the weekend. We have to come in our environment, and they're under our responsibility.
That's good. All right, mate, let's go back to your coaching journey a bit. This is, I think, the 20th conversation we've had on here, ranging from, pro players that have played for the Socceroos, played in the big leagues in Europe, essentially finish playing and roll straight into an A-League or a head coaching role somewhere. You've got the career coaches like Joe Montemuro that doesn't have the incredible professional playing career and starts coaching kids, not in the higher levels of football at age 27. And more and more we're starting to talk to people like yourself that finish playing, understand that they love the game, start to get their licenses before they finished. And then I just love it that Adelaide City had the foresight to prepare you for what was coming up and then give you the opportunity to start, with the youth team as an assistant coach and then a head coach through that. And I'm guessing your coaching style's probably changed a bit. You probably made a few mistakes back then and did things differently. Speak to me about that side of the journey with Adelaide United.
Yeah, look, when I look at it now, and I have this conversation a lot with younger coaches that I speak to here, it's, you laugh at some of the things 10 years ago that I was doing or how I was doing it. But you come to a stage now where you do realise that it's more about people. And that's what it comes down to. Back then, it was all about showing your knowledge and the tactical side of the game. And it was all about the training sessions and how we were going to play this beautiful attacking football. And that's what you thought coaching was. That's what I thought it was. And it was, how my team will mirror this philosophy of playing this attacking football and pressing type game. You realise now that no matter what the philosophy is, whether it's, you're going to want to park the bus and play counter-attacking, you're going to want to play a beautiful attacking game, it all comes down to relationships and people. And before you even have a football philosophy, you need to have a life philosophy. And you need to understand who you are, what you stand for, what you believe in, what your standards are, before you even talk about a football philosophy. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. It won't work. It won't come to fruition. Or, you'll have inconsistencies along the way. And I guess that, everyone's journey is a little bit different. But over time, that's where I think I've become better. I've understood certain things that someone will say, why didn't you understand in the beginning? And that's normal. That's okay. And that's why maybe some people are doing, they start off earlier and they probably start the right way up. And that is, from a person perspective, because footballers are humans. They're not footballers, they're humans.
Absolutely.
So, I look at it back then and, I was very demanding in terms of football and intensity and the way I wanted the game played. And now I realise that all that is all well and good, and that's no problem. That's not changed. That's there. How we do it and knowing myself and understanding who I am and putting in place values and standards that I want help carry and bring to life that philosophy. And it's amazing. And I'll say this, Gary, because when I did first start my licenses, I'd have really good conversations with Rob and Kelly, and they'd be telling us about football philosophy and about life philosophy, and we were like, "Come on, man, let's talk football. Let's talk system formations and how we're going to attack and training sessions." And to me, it was like, okay, that's okay. And you come out of the game as a player, and that's the thing. You come out of the game as a player, and you think, how could coaching be? These guys, how can they get it wrong? About our coaches. How hard can it be? You just put 11 good players out on the pitch and they'll make it happen. You motivate them a bit, but it's nothing like that. That's gone.
Yeah.
I think that doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, and you learn along the way, and I guess that's what experience does, Gary. So it'd be interesting to be able to go back now in those days, the way I am now. And I'd love to be able to do that, but I can't. I go back into time.
No, I love that, mate. And you've opened a little box. I think a wise man once says that culture trumps strategy for breakfast every day of the week. You know, we can have the best laid plans and the best tactics in the world, but if the culture, if our relationships with people, the values and behaviours that we have, what becomes acceptable to one another, if you don't have that, then it's bloody hard to be successful in a team environment. Well, any environment, not just the team environment, in any business or sport environment.
Yeah, 100%. And that learning was even important to us when we came here to the national, because we encountered a team that was, since 2014 up until 2019, we came along, had very much underachieved as a Greek national team. And, they go back to 2004 where they were European champions, and they were, the whole place looked nothing like that. So we knew straight away at JVS before we even talk philosophy. And that's why I mentioned before that, the first camp, the team didn't even play anything close to what we wanted in football terms. It was more about standards, putting values in place, fixing the culture and demanding that, that's what we want. These are the behaviours we want, and the rest is unacceptable. And we encountered, certain things in that environment. And we look at the team now and the culture of it, and no matter what philosophy, like you said, or tactics, they'll perform because of the family that they are and the standards that they hold of each other. You hear them before games when they talk. It's great that a coach doesn't have to say too much because they're demanding certain things from each other. So. Yeah, that's certainly true, mate. It's the most important thing. So as a young coach, I'd always say to any young coach now, before you even think about football philosophy, really consider your life philosophy. That's what I believe. And what is that? What are the values that you believe in, that no matter what, even if you're going to be tested, like we were tested with the Greek national team, a player coming late to a meeting or a player having his phone ring on the bus on the way to a game, how are you going to respond to that? You're going to let it go?
Yeah.
Or all those sorts of things. You've got to be consistent over a long period of time.
I love that, mate, and I love the fact. For me, you can tell when you're winning when the holding one another accountable is coming from within the playing group and not being directed by the coaches. That the culture's within the organisation when that's happening. Are you in JVS been able to take all of the players on that journey with you to come through, or have you needed to change some of the personnel to get to that point?
Yeah, we've certainly changed personnel. We have certainly changed personnel, and at the beginning, we're getting a lot of pressure put on us as well in terms of some of the bigger names that were being left out of a camp. But we believed in the team needed to change. The team needed new blood, needed younger players coming in with energy and a foresight that they want to be at the next World Cup. And we did that. And over time, it takes time. It takes a lot of time to change the culture. It doesn't happen overnight. There's no doubt about that. But you have to be consistent as coaches as well, as coaching staff and from the staff. And even, what we had to change the way the staff worked and the standards we expected from the staff. And it's so easy from success to go backwards. And, I think the team from 2004 till 2014, when they went to the last World Cup, were doing well. But after that, I think they let standards drop. And you could see that within the environment from day one when we went in. So we knew straight away that, we'd have to change things up. Yeah. And we'd have to really focus on culture more than football philosophy. And the football philosophy would come straight after that. It would fall in place as well. So, yeah, it's great when you see a game against Sweden. You can actually see what you just said, where players do take responsibility, set the standard for the team, and they respond in the way they did. So, it's been a really good journey in terms of learning to really focus on that, put that in place, and in an environment that you don't get players too often either. So that was a challenge in itself. And, and even putting certain ceremonies in place, where we're very good at doing that in Australia, really good at doing things like that in Australia. where in countries like Greece, they don't really exist, to celebrate a player's debut in the national team. Or, like how we receive our cap with our number on it, having represented the Socceroos, and what a feeling that is when you receive that. So we even have to, put some of that stuff in place so the players can understand and speak about how important it is to them to be with the national team. And that has helped a lot as well. So we've done a lot of other different work, not just football work, in regards to putting things in place in the national team.
Good on you. You're listening to The Football Coaching Life, a podcast brought to you by Football Coaches Australia and Making Media, the podcast professionals. Today's guest is Michael Valkanis, assistant coach of the Greek national team, having a great chat about coaching life in international football, as well as the roots. So let's go back a little bit more again, Michael. So what is coaching?
Yeah, what is coaching? Coaching is being a leader, and it's being a leader to help coach other people, and that is not only in football. And that's why I touched on a life philosophy. You've got to really connect with the human side of the player, I think, and you've got to set a vision in place, and try to impact the players through that vision that you have in the way you want to play, what you want to achieve through playing that way. And then you need to have a process, because without a process, if you haven't got an idea how to put that in place, then that vision is just going to fall away anyway. So you need to know how to act on that vision. And I think along a coaching journey, that they are the pieces to the puzzle that you start to put together, and what I call tools to be able to put in place and be a coach. Because I think without a vision, how are you going to make these players play this way? So you've got to emotionally attach to them that, it's going to be exciting playing this sort of attacking football that, for example, I'm using the Greek national team that, are used to defending and playing counter-attacking, but we believe in the Greek players' technical ability to play football and enjoy playing attacking football, and we can change it. And then you've got to act on how to put that in place. So what are the processes to put that in place? What training methods are you going to use? You need to know that. You need to know, how you're going to train that, how you're going to get those players to play that way, whether it's, with all the work you do on and off the pitch. So it's about knowing the people that you need around you then to be able to deliver that. And of course, what we just spoke about, being able to put in place a culture and have an ecosystem where the people can do their best working and work to deliver their best selves. Because ultimately, we always talk about a common goal, and you want your team to achieve this. So, for example, we want our team to go to the World Cup. But every individual there has their own goal as well. So that's a common goal. But every, Gary, John, Alex, Peter, they've also got their individual goals. So my job as a coach is to help them achieve that individual goal within the team's common goal. So to do that, I'm going to have to know everything about Gary, everything about Alex, everything about John, know what makes him tick, know what he loves to do away from football, know his qualities and his strengths within football to be able to bring that to life as well. And to do all that, I think, again, I'm going to say it comes back to your life philosophy, because you've got to connect with people, because no matter how much you ramble on, Gary, you're going to be the best attacking player, you're going to run in behind, we're going to play the ball, you're going to score goals. If I haven't connected with you, you might do it once, twice, and then all of a sudden it's gone. So,
I like that.
That's what I think what coaching is.
I want to talk a little about influence. In doing the research, you've played under Cozzi, you've played under Aurelio, you mentioned Josip Gombal, Guillermo Amor, and obviously John Van Schip. You've worked with all of those guys. They're very different people, very different personalities. I'm assuming they've all got different philosophies as well. Are any of those a coaching mentor, or have you had a coaching mentor on your journey, someone that you can really talk to and open up about how you're growing and developing as a coach?
Yeah, early on, I sort of cut the story up when I mentioned Hamburger. Again, another Dutchie that came in my path, and he was a mentor early on. He kept close tabs with me when I first started coaching, and obviously, he gave me the scholarship and sent me away to learn a lot more and develop myself. And he was great. He was great to talk to and talk about the youth and so on to him and the way I wanted to play. Later on, my mentor stayed on as it was more Joseph Gumbel. So even after we left from Adelaide and I went to Melbourne City, I still have contact with Joseph and we speak about football and so on. Look, I think it's very important. When I first started, I didn't have that much contact with a lot of other coaches or speak, and maybe that was a little bit of my personality as well. That I keep things close to my chest. Now I see the importance of talking a lot to different coaches and different people, and that's what I've done since 2016. A more diverse outlook, in particular to the way I want the game played.
Absolutely,
So, and even watching teams, I won't really watch teams that don't play that sort of football. I like to really spend my time watching teams because I get a lot of that anyway, analysing our own players. But I love to watch, coaches with similar philosophy and to learn as much as I can from. But I think, it's really important to be able to, especially if those coaches have those similar philosophies. I think that can help a lot in having that sort of.
And for that to work properly, there's got to be a great deal of trust in those relationships, hasn't there?
Yeah, 100%. And with, I don't know, back in 2014 with Joseph, we also clicked from the very beginning, straight away. I don't know whether that's football-wise that makes you click, and then your values are very similar in terms of the way you go about life and what you believe and your standards and so on you expect. And I was at that time I was able to be very open and honest with him at an important part of my coaching career. He gave me a huge responsibility with the senior team, working under him, but also guiding me as a youth coach in charge of the youth team. And during those 4 years, Gary, there's nothing like working and doing it practically and learning from it, because those 4 years I was able to do it with the senior squad every morning, and I would be with Joseph and Paul and Guillermo from 8 o'clock in the morning discussing football. 10 o'clock there was always a training session. I'd have my responsibilities. I'd do what I had to do. We'd finish up with discussing football again. At 3 o'clock, those guys would still be at it. Joseph would actually say to me, Michael, I think you better go and see your family because then you've got youth team training. So go pick up the boys from school, leave us to it now because you've got a responsibility with the youth. And then I'd go pick up the boys, go back home, speak to my wife a little bit. As much as it should be great. We should interview wives, really, not coaches. And, I'd be off to youth training where I'd be in charge of my team of coaches, our people, and we really put in place a great environment back in those days, LA United. And a great group of coaching staff, great boys. We worked there and I'd be back home at 9 o'clock at night. But what I'm trying to say is, I'd be working from 8 o'clock in the morning, say till 9 o'clock at night. It was football. I had great people around me and I was able to practice. That was 4 years. That was done for 4 years. That's how you improve as a coach, actually doing it and getting out there, getting your hands dirty, being active, and trying things, and having good people next to you that can mentor you when you do get stuck. They can give you some advice. And those 4 years were huge.
And that was a very successful period for the club as well. They won the FFA Cup in 2014, 15, 16. They did the double, I think the Premiership and the Championship, and then you as head coach of the year team won the Conference Championship as well, yeah?
Yeah, we won the Conference Championship, got promoted to NPL1 with our boys that first year. But one of the things that people really forget about those days was the amount of boys that came through the youth. and played for the senior team. And that had a lot to do, not with me or with the other staff, it had a lot to do with the way we worked senior team, youth team.
Yep.
And there was one common philosophy, there was common methodology, and the boys were able to adapt through a game model that existed in the youth and the senior team. And Joseph was able to say, I need a right back, get Gary from the youth straight away up, no problem. And he believed in the work we were doing. And that was huge as well, to allow the boys to believe that there's an opportunity. And a lot of boys came through that era to play. And a lot of them, didn't stay on Adelaide United, but there were a lot that moved on to other A-League clubs, which is fantastic as well. Job well done. But It also taught me, that period was huge in teaching me how to be able to put that together as well. Because, we don't have the budgets to be able to do what they do here in Europe or what they were doing at Pex Volley, even not a huge budget, but a budget that they're able to do wonderful things in with their academy. But it taught me how to do things with smaller budgets, and that anything, nothing's impossible. Like sometimes we think we need this, we need that, we need money to do this, that. We found ways to help our players to have a professional environment as much as we could with the resources we had. And you need to be creative, you need to be innovative. And we did that, and with the help and guidance of obviously Joseph back then, and with a common philosophy, we had a lot of success, not only winning silverware, but developing players as well.
I love that. I love that, mate. It's great when it all comes together. Michael, being an old De La Salle boy down here, growing up, you played football. I'm guessing you probably had a kick of an AFL ball. You might have had a go at cricket during the summer, because that's sort of life growing up in Melbourne. Have coaches from outside of football had any influence over your career? Have you looked at what other people are doing or what other games are doing, and got any great nuggets from there?
Yeah, 100%, Gary. Obviously, there's some great football coaches that we look at. And we always know they're the Guardiolas, they're the Klopps of this world, and even Ange Postecoglou, our own Australian coach, which has been amazing. Fantastic person to be able to look up to and to aspire to be like. But there's people in other coaches that can be great to watch and learn from. And I like to look at some of the NFL coaches and read a lot of their books, and NBA coaches. They're very interesting in reading how, sometimes these guys are very creative, how they go about their work, and how they really focus a lot as well on not so much the philosophy of the actual sport, but the philosophy of life and how they change environments. And you tend to see that a lot in the American sports. But I was always a Collingwood supporter as well. Okay, I don't know, a lot of people will probably say, Collingwood, what are you doing being a Collingwood supporter? But I grew up being a Collingwood supporter. And during my later playing days, where I was coming towards the end, Collingwood were playing really good football, and Malthouse was a tremendous coach. So you'd look at the way he was, and the way he had tremendous success, with the West Coast Eagles and Collingwood themselves. So, yeah, he was also someone that I looked up to in the way he went about his coaching, and the way he spoke in the media, and how he went about his job and his environments and his culture. So I think there's heaps we can learn from coaches on the outside, not necessarily just coaches from our code.
Yeah. No, thanks for that. I like that a lot. And for anyone that doesn't understand it, if you moved to Melbourne, or you emigrated to Melbourne, or you grew up in Melbourne, not having an AFL team is sacrilege. You get actually kicked out of the city. So all football people down here have to have an AFL club. It's compulsory. Is that fair? Is that a fair comment, Mick?
No, look, you grow up in a state that's all AFL. So I played football for South Melbourne, but Collingwood was a love.
Yeah.
You just I was a black and white guy. I had to support Collingwood, and growing up in an era where they were doing really well. So yeah, I think kicking the AFL ball was normal in De La Salle days. Gary, you mentioned De La Salle and going to De La Salle, and that's you look at kids growing up here, it's a little bit different. I looked at kids in Holland, it was a little bit different. So in Holland, you walk the streets, and there was a park with a five-a-side court, pitch, call it what you want, nearly in every corner. My boys absolutely love living in Holland because they could just walk across the road. There was a 5-side ground to play on. Here in Greece, a little bit different. There's not that much room for that, but there's basketball courts everywhere. So you'll see that a lot of even footballers end up playing football. They love playing basketball when they were young. But us in Australia, we grew up playing AFL, playing cricket in the summer, playing tennis. You know, so we do a range of sports and we love all sorts of sports. But yeah, that's one thing that I noticed in Holland, where it's a little bit different. You know, you're going to grow up just playing football.
Yeah. Hey, Mick, changing track just a bit. I haven't taken a lot of questions from people over the journey, but I had someone reach out this week and say that they're a young developing coach from Canberra and asking just how people at the pointy end of the game, like yourself, deal with social media. I know you've got a Twitter handle because that's how we made initial contact here. How do you participate with social media, and how have you got any advice for dealing with the keyboard warriors, or do you just sort of ignore them? How does social media impact you as a coach?
Yeah, okay, that's a great question, and it's an important one because look, social media existed even in my earlier days when I first started coaching, and I was interim coach in Adelaide and Melbourne City, and in particular Melbourne City, where I had the Twitter account, and you're going to get people that want to speak their mind and say what they want. And unfortunately, look, the world has gone. It's difficult. I speak to my boys about this all the time because it's opened the platform for any, I'm sorry to say, Tom, Dick, and Harry to speak and have an opinion about the game. And early on, I might have been affected by someone saying something. Now I don't read. I don't. And look, you learn to be, even at coaching here at national team level, with the amount of media here, social media doesn't really matter because the amount of media is very critical here. Newspapers and TV channels and TV shows. Nearly every channel's got their own football program that can be critical. Well, it's part of the game. So, look, social media, if you're going to be on it and you want to be on it, it's going to be part of, you have to accept it, that people are going to have their opinion, and you're going to open the door to any Tom, Dick, and Harry to say whatever they want to say. But it's how you respond to it, and I tend not to worry about it. I'll put on there what my football philosophy, things that I like from football, things that I like from leadership, and stuff about culture and stuff that I believe in and I would endorse. I put on there, and things I love. But I try to keep my personal life personal as well, so I won't put too much personal stuff on there. It's more just about football and philosophy. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you're going to get people, and I put something up there after the game against Sweden, and I always win, draw, lose. It doesn't matter. I think it's important to put up your message and what you think, and because as a coach, to me, it doesn't matter what anyone has got to say. Not anyone. I shouldn't say that. Someone that is not involved directly with the work I do, because we believe in the way we work. I believe in my process. I believe that I can fix the problem that exists. So if something doesn't go right and I don't win, I don't sit there going all emotional and go, oh shit, am I going to fix this? I know, because I have a game model, I have a philosophy, I have a method, I have a process that we're going to fix that, and we're going to fix it within our group. So if anyone on the outside isn't able to tell me how to do it, then why listen to them? Okay, because usually a lot of these people that do go on, they can tell you you've lost or you've drawn or you've played crap, but they can't tell you why.
No, of course, no. I think it's probably a part of for a modern day coach, it's a part of the whole resilience package. It's another area where you've got to develop resilience if you're going to open it and read it. There's the truth is there's going to be a few clips around the head, whether it's and I think one of the things I found from Twitter is the truth is whatever you say it is. It's got nothing to do with reality. Truth is whatever comes out of my mouth, apparently. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that? How important is resilience for coaches?
Oh, mate, if you're not resilient, if you haven't got thick skin, if you don't believe in what you do, you won't be able to continue. It's a tough job. I recently told someone it's a little bit, because you do work in an industry that's results driven. We know that. And I once remember my CEO at Adelaide United saying, "Michael, you romanticize a lot. It's all about results, son." And I said, "Gary, look, I'm gonna do it my way. I'm gonna romanticize, and I'm gonna play football this way. And you live and die by your own sword. Yeah, you're a romanticist. You don't survive in the end. You've got to be a little bit more pragmatic." To me. So Glenn Elliott was his name, and he was always giving me information and info to not be a romanticist. But no, I think you have to, really believe in how you do things, and you're resilient. It's part of coaching. You have to be resilient. You have to find solutions. You have to help people. You have to get people up. You have to have energy. You're gonna have a bad result the next day. You've got to get up. You've got to be the first to have that energy to inspire people again and get them going, because it's amazing how emotional this game can get. And now you're reminding me of days of how emotional I used to get when I was a younger coach.
Yeah.
And first started out, because results affect a lot of people. That affected a lot of people, and in particular at the high end, supporters can go absolutely crazy. But you've got to be consistent. You've got to stand your ground, and you've got to really be clear and lead people towards your vision, regardless. If you get some bumps along the way, it's just life. It's life in general. Football is life in general. You just got to keep going, and you've got to be resilient. So, yeah, it's reminding me a little bit of some of the conversations I've had to have with my sons recently, because they've started their soccer career and their academy. So, it's not all a linear path to success, is it? It doesn't.
It is not. No, there's a few ups and downs along the way, that's for sure.
And it's amazing. And I mentioned previously, during my career, the downs are sometimes the present that you receive.
Yeah.
The downs are the learning. The downs are what can make you better. You don't realise at the time, but when time does pass, you realise that did help that situation, or that happened.
Yeah, we've had that conversation on here plenty of times, Michael. It's in our game. We love winning. It's great to get the trophy. It's great to get the 3 points. It's great to get the win. We don't always get the learning sometimes that we need to from wins, but we invariably get them from the losses.
Yeah. The slap in the face, you usually have to, you think, oh, what went wrong, and you really got to. But that's also a learning as well, Gary, to be able to learn from the loss or mistakes, because I think you have to be humble enough to be able to say, I stuffed up, and to look in the mirror and say, okay, how can I improve? And there's lots of times where, and I think that's the only way you can improve and get better as a coach, is to be able to reflect and say, yep, I'm not good at A, B, C, I did D, E, F, and then I need to improve there. If you don't do that, you're not going to improve. So you need to have that humility and to be humble enough to be able to say, yeah, okay, I'm not the best, I'm not the greatest, but how am I going to get there? And you learn from those mistakes. If you're not like that, you're not going to look at a loss like that. You're going to look to blame everyone and everything else, and you're not going to improve.
No, you're probably not going to last much longer either. All right, mate. We're on the downhill run here. On the downhill run now. A couple of questions to go. What for you does success look like?
Good question. Success is it can be a lot of things, and it's a little bit like you've got your main goal, and you've got your goal that you want to win the World Cup, for example. But success could also be going to a World Cup. So I'm using this as an example. It's not necessarily success. Success is being able to achieve what you vision. So to be able to see something come to life into reality. Success is a lot of things. In football, it can be so many things because, like I said, you've got 20, 30 people in the environment. You've always got that common goal, which that might be the World Cup, but everyone within there's got their individual goals. Success is how can I help each individual achieve whatever goal that is that he has, and at the same time achieving the common goal of everyone. And when you think about it, geez, that's hard work, isn't it? It's but you've got to love it. You've got to love that you can help someone and feel that happiness that they achieve their personal success, but at the same time, you can get that win on the weekend, and that personal success might be, helping a young player achieve his first debut and playing for the national team for the first time. What a feeling that is. You remember the first time you played for the national team, and you can feel what that player is feeling. And you've given him that opportunity. That's a successful feeling. That guy's done another step in his career. That's great, and that's success for the coach as well because he's helped someone. Success is that feeling. When you've done something from what you've envisioned, and you're helping people, and you're creating something special. That is success. And success along that, I guess what I'm leading to is success isn't always at the end. And it's great. It could be going to the World Cup and winning the World Cup, but it could be all those bits in between that have happened along the way, along the journey, that we have to be mindful of, and know that as coaches, we've succeeded in other parts of the journey as well. Because the journey's long. It's long. And success, you feel it. You feel
like
it.
That.
It's an emotion. It's a happiness. And it's not necessarily always you, but it could be you feel it from your teammate, or you feel it from the player that you coach.
Thanks, mate. Okay, final one for you then. If you could offer one piece of wisdom to coaches, whether they're on the beginning of their journey, in the middle of their journey, at the end of their journey, one piece of wisdom that you could offer about coaching, what would that be?
It could be heaps, huh? No, number one, and I'll go back to what we've spoken about because I really do believe in it. It's really, really knowing yourself, really sitting down, looking in the mirror and saying, who am I? Who am I going to be? Who really am I? What do I stand for? What do I want in this environment? What are the standards I want? What are my values that will come out and they will show to the group? They will feel it. They will know it because they're consistent over time. And I think that's what makes the environment. And it's very important to really know that. And then the rest will take care of itself in terms of football philosophy. That will come to life through knowing yourself and being able to bring that in the environment. And that is a little bit about being really authentic, isn't it? It's about, everyone's got different values, and we haven't got hundreds of values, but these values that really drive the way we go about life and the way we're going to go about coaching in an authentic way to bring this philosophy to life. And I think that, and maybe I'm saying that is the number one piece of wisdom because that's what I've seen is what's been a game changer to me and it's helped me become a better coach. So, when the Kelly Crosses of this world and Rob mentioned, all this sort of stuff to us early on in our licenses, really take note and really think about it more than watching games of football or formations and the tactical side because it's so important.
Great place to finish, Michael. Thanks, mate. Really appreciate your knowledge, your wisdom, and your generosity today in joining us from an early morning in sunny downtown Athens. We wish you and John Vanship and the Greek national team very well in the middle of a very important World Cup qualifying campaign. Third in the group, a couple of games less than a lot of the teams. Some fantastic recent results. So all power to you. Go
Thanks,
Greece.
Gary. Thanks. Yeah, well, look, we've got a big camp coming up. We have got to play Georgia away and Sweden away, so it's going to be a make or break for sure. But we're really looking forward to the challenge. I think it's going to, the last camp was fantastic in terms of the way the boys responded against Sweden. Yeah. Sweden's a great team, so we're really looking forward to the challenge ahead.
Look forward to those values and behaviours shining through. You've been listening to The Football Coaching Life, a podcast brought to you by Football Coaches Australia and Making Media, the podcast professionals. If you've enjoyed today's chat with Michael Valkanis, please go to footballcoachesauss.org.au, find out a bit more about the organisation. You can buy membership, renew a membership, or just find out a bit more about coaching football in Australia. You have a great day.